No surprise here. Picture perfect day in Phoenix, Arizona. Tonight it's game number 2 as the Arizona Diamondbacks play host to the world champion St. Louis Cardinals on Fox Sports Midwest. And along with my partner tonight, Rick Horton, I'm Dan McLaughlin. Delighted to have you with us here for game number 2. The Cardinals, a team that went to postseason play last year. Arizona, Rick, did as well. The Cardinals, though, looking at all of Major League Baseball, one of those teams that stands out having success this year.
Yeah, and a lot of teams have hope in the early going here if you look around baseball, because some of the teams that were good last year are really just treading water this year, especially the teams in the National League. The Cardinals at 18-11 are off to a very, very fast start.
If you missed it last night, you missed the home run. A big part of that win for St. Louis. A look at those 5 bombs when we come back. Back with you in the desert, the Cardinals have jumped up to #1 in the National League as far as home runs are concerned with 37, 2 ahead of Colorado, and we'll see the Atlanta Braves over the weekend at Busch Stadium. And Ricky, they added to that total last night with 5 solo home runs.
And they were all long ones too, Dan. Each one 425 feet or more. Rafael Furcal actually had the longest of the 5. But the Cardinals have this great power all season long, but it's also spread out. Beltran at 8. Holiday has 6 of his own, and David Freese with 7. So well balanced in the power department.
Alan Craig is in the lineup again tonight, along with David Freese. Coming up, though, we'll talk about the pitchers. It's game 2, coming up on Fox Sports Midwest. Very good matchup here tonight in Phoenix, Arizona. It's a pair of right-handers. Kennedy, Westbrook. First pitch is next. Cardinals baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. By your Mid-America Chevy dealers, the #1 selling brand in St. Louis. Find us at stlchevy.com. By Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers, #1 for quality tires and expert auto service. By Steak and Shake, just no equal. And by O'Charlie's, 2 for $20, 1 appetizer and 2 entrees, just $20 only at O'Charlie's. The Grand Canyon. We get our views from all over the place as we welcome you back to Chase Field. And John Jay will lead it off momentarily, followed by Beltran and Holiday. Then Craig, Freese, Molina, Schumacher, Descalso, and the pitcher Jake Westbrook. 21-game winner from a year ago. And what a surprise season for Ian Kennedy.
He's going to be a tough guy to beat. He hasn't lost in a very long time. Actually lost against the Nationals, but his last outing, but he hasn't pitched poorly in a long time. Let's put it that way. His numbers last year, Dan, were outstanding. 4th in the National League in the Cy Young voting.
1 ball, 1 strike on John Jay. And I think what you were leaning towards, Rick, he hasn't lost at home in a long time. He's been great here. Nearly a year ago was the last time he lost at this ballpark.
And 16-2 overall since July of last year.
Here's a 1-2 pitch. So the question becomes, Rick, what changed? Why is he now one of the elite pitchers statistically in baseball?
Well, he's still a young guy in terms of his experience at the big league level. He had a couple of cups of coffee with the Yankees and never really kind of panned out there and came over in a trade. I think he's just getting the opportunity. He's figured it out.
Also getting an opportunity is John Jay, and that will go all the way to the wall. Jay to second. He's on his way to third. Jay on his way with a triple to start the ball game. A do-or-die play out in center field by Parra. He dove for it, trying to keep Jay at second base. It didn't work out. Goes to the wall. And in doing so, John Jay has himself a leadoff triple.
Jay came in to play 3rd in the National League in batting. And he's helped his cause some more there in the first spot with Furcal getting the night off. There's the effort by Parra. Gold Glover, as you mentioned, just trying to keep this just a double. A lot of space out there in left center field and right center field at Chase Field.
Now Carlos Beltran. We've seen some teams first inning play in, especially when they think that runs could be at a premium, and that may be the case tonight, even though it is the first inning.
Well, from the Cardinals' point of view, you want to get every run you can when you're facing Kennedy.
That will help. Deep fly, right field, and it's another home run here in Arizona. Wow! Way out of here for Carlos. And it's 2-0 St. Louis. That's 6 home runs in the series already for this club.
Left fielder number 7, Matt Holliday.
Beltran has shown power from the right side and power from the left side. That pitch in the middle of the plate. Kennedy got beat up early in the season last year in a start against the Cardinals, which is the worst start of his entire career.
Now it's Holliday, and he pops one foul. Cardinals jumped out to a huge lead last night. It got interesting, but late home runs gave St. Louis the cushion. And the Cardinals adding to their #1 ranking today in that home run department. And that's a foul ball. 2 strikes on Holliday, and Mike Matheny, he just fills out the lineup card, and these guys, they start hitting home runs.
Well, he did have some decisions to make. Do you put John Jay into the first spot? He's been more of a second spot or 7th, but did a nice job leading off. Beltran seems very comfortable in that second spot.
Yeah, for Kyle, who is getting the night off. Descalso is at short, so John Jay is your leadoff man. And Beltran's a guy, Rick, that we've seen him either in the second spot or hitting cleanup. Holliday up the middle. That's a base hit, and the first 3 have reached. Let's take a look at the Arizona defense. Kubel, Parra, and Upton in the outfield. And this is presented by the folks at Dobbs. As we go around the horn on the infield, Ransom, McDonald, Hill, and Goldschmidt on the right side. Miguel Montero, all-star last year, is behind the plate. And Rick, from the Arizona perspective, they're seeing St. Louis for the first time, and they're saying, okay, here's the defending champs, minus Albert Pujols, minus LaRusse and Duncan. Some pretty big names, but man, these guys can flat out hit, and that's without Berkman in this lineup too.
5 home runs yesterday for St. Louis.
And Craig hits it sharply to third, a double play ball. Out at second and out at first. It's a double play, 5-4-3.
Third baseman number 23.
2 down, and it brings in David Freese.
Ball almost eats up. Ransom at third. Kennedy very happy to get 2 outs with 1 pitch. Really struggled, Dan, that early outing last year. He gave up 9 runs in 3 innings against the Cardinals, including a grand slam by Lance Berkman.
Freese had one of those 5 home runs last night. Here's Ransom again. A little easier play this time. What a start again for St. Louis tonight here in inning number 1. Beltran, the long home run. Cardinals now have scored in the first inning of 8 straight games and a total of 19 runs. And here's Parra, Hill, and Upton in the first inning for Arizona. Montero, Goldschmidt, Kubel, Ransom, McDonald, and Ian Kennedy looking for his first base hit. He'll try to do that against the Cardinals starter, and that's Jake Westbrook.
Very good early start to the season for Westbrook. 10th in the National League in earned run average. The big plus for him, throwing downhill, getting ground balls. Nobody in baseball with a better ground ball to fly ball ratio than Jake Westbrook.
Beltran with home run number 9 already. And it's a lead for St. Louis, 2-0. Parra leads it off. And it's a Diamondbacks team that is missing a very good shortstop in Drew and a very good center fielder in Young. Different looking team, and those 2 are in their lineup.
Stephen Drew is the shortstop, all-star shortstop that broke his ankle severely. In fact, it was just kind of a traumatic ankle injury, and he's just now starting to play again. He played 5 innings in an extended spring game today, had a triple in that game, so he's not far off. And he was a bit of a Cardinal killer too, Dan. There are moments where he controlled the offense. He's a number 3 batter in the lineup. He's that good a hitter, and Cardinals may be catching the Diamondbacks at the right time.
There was a lot of talk right before the beginning of the season what would happen with Parra here in Arizona, and Kirk Gibson put to rest any rumors that he might be traded. There was talk that he would wind up in Washington, and Washington certainly could use him now because they've lost Jason Worth for 12 weeks with a broken wrist. Grounder to Descalso, and that play is made for the first out. Ground balls, and that's the name of the game for Jake Westbrook. Holiday, Jay, and Beltran in the outfield. It's Freeze, Descalso, Schumacher, and Craig along the infield. Behind the plate, the Gold Glover, Yadier Molina. And Around the Horn is brought to you by Dobbs. Daniel Descalso showing his versatility as he'll play shortstop tonight. And Furcal gets game 2 off. And there's a strike to Hill. Has spent the majority of his career over in the American League. Parts of 7 years with the Toronto Blue Jays. And among second basemen, only Robinson Cano and Dan Uggla have more home runs than Aaron Hills in 2009. Two and one the count with one down and nobody on for Arizona in their half of the first. Descalso can't get to that ball. It's a base hit. First hit of the night for Arizona.
Westbrook gets the ground ball he wants. It's just not right at somebody.
We were talking the other day, Rick, about Washington's phenom and the pressures for Bryce Harper. And if there's a guy that knows all about pressure and having that can't miss tag on him, he's at the plate, and that's Justin Upton. This guy was the USA Today High School Player of the Year. At one point, he was the Minor League Player of the Year. And already a two-time All-Star and a former #1 overall pick. His brother, of course, #2 overall pick, BJ by Tampa Bay.
95% of minor league baseball players play with the hopes of someday being a big leaguer. And then there's that small percentage that are expected to be big leaguers, and that's an entirely different kind of pressure. It's a different life. They feel the pressure right out of the gate when they're playing in a small town somewhere, where other guys are just thinking, hey, this is awesome. Wouldn't it be great if someday I get to be a big leaguer? But in his case, it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to be a big leaguer. It's just when and how good's he going to be. And by the way, if he's an average big leaguer, that's not good enough. And so guys like Bryce Harper, Justin Upton, a whole different kind of pressure to be those guys.
0-1 pitch to Upton. And he truly is a five-tool player. I think that gets thrown out there maybe a little too much in describing very talented players, but this guy hits for power, average, great arm, speed, very good glove, everything that you want out of a player he can do.
We've seen the arm strength already. Seen the speed in the past, certainly for Upton.
Two and one the count. Let's see if Arizona wants to be aggressive here. Upton off to a slow start, hitting just .234, only 3 home runs. He's driven in 9. Outfield is deep. Not running and fouled back.
Westbrook already with 5 induced ground balls in the early going, and nothing better for a sinker ball pitcher to get those 2 outs with 1 pitch. And Jake had some issues last year with control, Dan, but especially with guys on base. It's almost as if he was trying so hard to get the ball to sink instead of just trusting the stuff, trusting that you throw the ball low in the zone, they're going to beat it into the ground. And then he'd walk a guy. Now he has a big inning, and Jake has managed to stay away from those this year.
Just missed, and it's 3-2. Something that Kirk Gibson pointed out. Very interesting that you think about just little things in the game, but how a infield is watered down in the dirt, and actually had his guys practicing sliding. We'll talk about it, why he did that in a second. And they're going to say that's an out at second base. It's an out at second. I don't think they would have gotten Upton. It would have been very close.
And it was pretty close as to whether or not Descalzo was able to hold on to this ball. Upton would have been a tough guy to double up. In fact, he has maybe hit into a double play all season long. One of a handful of players in the National League that did that. And so the real question is, does Descalzo catch this ball or not? Yes, he does. And it's on the transfer that he loses it.
There's the slide. That's what he was talking about, Rick. As crazy as it sounds, how some infields are watered down more than others. And he told his base runners early in the game, if you have a potential of a double play, go into guys. Let's play hard baseball, clean baseball, but understand if it's going to be a little muddy, you might stop. Again, I know it sounds crazy, but it's something that he pointed out.
Well, that's the attention to detail right there for you. And when you play a certain club that runs well, or a certain club that hits the ball on the ground, you're going to maybe cut the grass different. You're going to maybe water the dirt a little different. That's not unusual. And maybe even what you do with the baselines in terms of how slanted they may be. If it's a team that bunts a lot, and you know they'll deny that. Grounds crew guys will tell you, no, we don't do that. Let's just say I'm not sure about that. I would question it.
It's the politically correct way to say that you don't actually believe that.
Well, there were times where
I'll say it. You don't have to.
Vince Coleman and Willie McGee had to run in mud, and that's been a long time. And I'm sure baseball has to be more careful about that now, just to make sure there's the integrity of the game issues, which we all agree with.
Here's the 0-1 to Montero. 1 ball, 1 strike. The start of the Diamondbacks very similar to what they did a year ago. It was about this time that they started to turn it on and become one of the elite teams in their division. Won the division last year. They've only been around since the late 90s, and they've won 5 division titles.
That's why it was so strange when we would hear people come in from other clubs that would say, boy, this Diamondback team is really sensational. And we would say, well, wait a minute, we just scored about 10 runs a game against them early in the season. I don't get it. I mean, what's so sensational about the Diamondbacks? But they were right. They just kept getting better and better as the season progressed.
The 2-1 pitch on its way. And the pitch before that one, you could see Westbrook. He doesn't show very much emotion. Look back at the home plate umpire tonight. That's the crew chief, Tim Welke, and question the strike zone. It's 3-1 now. Remember last night, Montero early in the game questioned a called 3rd strike, and I believe he thought he had ball 4 there. There's the fine line of a catcher arguing balls and strikes when he's at the plate, not behind it.
Just when you argue, say sir at the end.
Thank you, please.
Yeah. Just be polite about it.
Runner will go with this pitch. They'll play behind him. Here's the 3-2. Hit out of play. Roof is open. That paneling beyond the wall is open, and we've seen the ball not just get out of the ballpark, but with ridiculous numbers as far as feet travel.
Ball's been flying. They announced at the start of the game that it's 90 degrees outside and it was 78 inside as they were opening up the roof.
And there's a walk by Westbrook. Jake wasn't overly sharp in his last start, and that was against Pittsburgh. Gave up 4, 9 hits, 6 in the 3rd. That was a 6-3 loss at home on Thursday. But his numbers outside of games against the Pirates are eye-popping. .86 ERA, and he's 3-0. Asked him about that the other day, and he said it's just one of those crazy things where Pittsburgh has hit me okay. Can't explain it.
And oddly enough, Ian Kennedy has had one bad start this year, and that was against the Pirates as well. And this is a Pirate team that had a batting average right around 200. But they handle both of these guys. So that's what makes baseball so interesting to me, is you have two pitchers that you think maybe it's going to be a 1-0 game, and all of a sudden the bats just show up that day, and you still have to play it, still have to get it done.
It's a very interesting player, young player that the Diamondbacks like in Goldschmidt, the first baseman that has tremendous power, but only one home run this year.
Most valuable player of the Southern League in Double-A for them last year.
Little chopper hit to short. Descalso charges and makes the play. We saw last night the Cardinals go back-to-back, not once, but twice. Beltran and Holiday. It would also happen later in the game. It was Alan Craig and David Freese. A total of 5 home runs hit last night. Another already this evening. More fireworks to come. And away we go. It's inning number 2. Cardinals lead this ball game, and it's a look at our Toyota keys to the game.
14 home runs the Cardinals have hit in their last 5 games, including what we've seen so far today. And they've averaged 10 runs a game during that time. 3-1 in the first 4 games. And the power certainly has showed up at this ballpark for St. Louis. I did not think that this Cardinal team would be a team where you'd say power was the way you would describe it. Not that they're not guys capable of hitting home runs, but to be leading the National League in home runs is a surprise to me.
And that's a strike on the outside corner. 0-2 to Yadier Molina. Yadi off to a very good start, hitting over 300 with the 4 home runs, and he's driven in 16. And he cranks one down the left field line. That ball is home run distance to be sure, but foul.
Cardinals are just teeing off here in Arizona. That's just a strike, but that's a long strike. That's a loud strike.
This time he's jammed and pops it up. Second baseman going out. That's Aaron Hill, and makes the play. Brings in Skip Schumacher. Schumacher is hitting .296. No home runs. And he has driven in 5. Just a little follow-up in talking with Skip before the game tonight. He has a fundraiser that we mentioned last night that Mike Matheny and the players have gotten behind. And that'll be July 19th. It's a Methodist church in O'Fallon, Missouri. If you'd like to find out more, babyreesa.com, REESA.com. And it's his best friend from growing up, Sean and Jamie Stetzman. They have a young daughter that is ill, and they need help. Members of the Rams and the Blues, the Cardinals will be there signing. $10 admission, so great way to raise some money and help out a wonderful cause, as Schumacher has extra bases here. Digging for 2 as Upton has to dig it out of the corner. And it's a 1-out double. Again, that's babyreesa, all one word, .com. And July 19th, a chance to get some autographs and hopefully your chance to meet some of the players as well.
Skip has always been a good fastball hitter. This pitch up a bit, drives it over the first baseman's head, and it's not a triple because of the strong arm of Upton and right. Got to it quickly enough, and Schumacher has to stop at second in scoring position for Descalso. Good to see Daniel getting a start. Needs to get his timing back on track.
Average at 256. And he looks at a ball. He's not looked very comfortable at the plate, has he?
He really hasn't. He's been off balance a bit. And when he's tracking, he really can put on as good at bat as anybody. He's not really established himself yet as an everyday player. He's solid defensively, but normally doesn't get cheated at the plate. Short stroke to the ball, but he has been off a bit with his timing.
Late with that swing, and it's 1-2. Saw Cora. We thought he would make the club, but it was Descalso showing that he could play shortstop and be very good defensively that allowed him to make this team. And there's a foul ball. It's a tip that's held onto by Montero. We have college nights throughout the season. The next one is Tuesday. And just go to cardinals.com/college. And those tickets are only $10. So show your valid student ID. And it's a college night. Also log on to cardinals.com/college. $10 tickets to see the Cubs and Cards next week. 2 away, and here's Jake Westbrook. There aren't many fields that have that dirt patch going straight from the mound to the plate for a guy that gets a lot of ground balls. I know, Rick, you wouldn't necessarily like that.
No, I think part of the problem would be it might hit a seam. It might kick left, kick right. Might not bounce the way you expect it to bounce. And even visually, I think for a pitcher, it's just kind of a difference, something that you're just not accustomed to. And I'm not sure I would like that little patch there. I would think it would cause you to overreact sometimes on ground balls hit back to you, and you might kind of mistime a ground ball as to whether or not it's on the dirt part or the grass.
2 balls and 1 strike. Conversation today with Lance Berkman down in the dugout. He feels very good. He could push it to play tomorrow, but with the off day on Thursday, more than likely it looks like he'll make that start on Friday night and come back. So again, we're seeing all that power. And remember, in the first series that we really saw his power come to the forefront last year was right here in Arizona. So you get that back in the lineup Friday night.
He was locked in, wasn't he?
Terrific. Talking to Lance about Tony La Russa and the big night coming up on Friday. Have his number retired. And he said Tony was probably the main reason he decided to come to St. Louis. Wanted to play for Tony. And he said, my greatest games, other games outside even last year, were against the Cardinals. Walk to Westbrook, and possibly trouble here as Montero calls time. John Jay is up. He's in the leadoff spot tonight.
So the D-backs are dealing with another former Astro who's now a Cardinal, who's killing them early in the season. This time it's Carlos Beltran. Home run early in this game. Home run yesterday. And they might have thought with Berkman out, they might have been catching the Cardinals at the right time. But even though the Cardinals did not play well in Houston, they managed to win 1 out of 3 there. The bats have really shown up so far here in Phoenix.
1-0 the count on John Jay, and a check on Schumacher at second.
Kennedy does not walk very many hitters, and to walk a pitcher, he's probably steaming right now.
Out of play. John Jay with a leadoff triple. Scored in the home run by Beltran, who is on deck. That hit him. Just caught John Jay. And what an opportunity, Rick, for the Cardinals here in the second inning. Bases loaded and Beltran at the plate.
Tries to come in and goes too far in, and this ball just grazes the uniform of John Jay. And the Cardinals now have a hit by pitch, a walk, a single, a double, a triple, and a homer. That's about it, isn't it?
And only 5 outs recorded against them. Beltran, that home run took 1 bounce, and then some guy was getting popcorn in the concourse, and it landed right in his lap. I mean, he absolutely crushed it. 1 bounce and a high bounce into the concourse. Bases loaded. 2 down. And that catches the corner. 1 ball, 1 strike.
There's not been a single questionable home run among the Cardinals' 6 home runs in this series.
Go back to thinking about, there's so many pitches in a game. Ones that can really stand out. You get the feeling this could be one right here.
I was going to say, I wouldn't want to throw this pitch. Behind in the count, bases loaded.
The 2-1 is hammered. Right center. Will it go? You bet. Grand slam. Grand slam. Beltran. Wow. He smoked it, his 2nd of the night. Crushed.
6 RBIs already for Carlos Beltran. 2 home runs. The Cardinals' 7th home run of this series. And Ian Kennedy does not like pitching to St. Louis here in Phoenix. Beltran, that beautiful left-handed swing, and another no-doubter. Plenty of distance. Just had that feeling getting behind in the count with Beltran. He was asking for problems, and walking Jake Westbrook really set that up.
So now with 10 home runs, and this is popped up. This should do it, but what an inning here for St. Louis. It's the Carlos Beltran show. Carlos 6, Arizona nothing. The 2nd night in a row, and the air has been let out of this stadium. Don't forget tomorrow, Game 6 special at 8. Right before our first pitch, Toyota Cardinals Live. 32nd career multi-home run game for the Cardinal right fielder. And it's a 6-0 lead. He has all 6 that have been driven in.
And it makes you think of his night on the 2nd of May
Yes.
against the Pirates. He had 7 RBIs in that game, which was his other multi-home run game. Also had 4 hits that night, and he's certainly not done yet. We just got going here, Dan.
Team is fun to watch.
Oh,
They are fun to watch.
team has power. They run well.
Hit sharply into right center for a base hit.
And the pitching's been solid. Defense has been solid. Location for Westbrook, right down central. Saw Jake's reaction. He was unhappy with himself. He certainly wants to put up a 0. His club has made it pretty comfortable for him right now. And the best way to respond is get your offense up there as quickly as possible.
Right now they are struggling with Ryan Roberts at third base, so Cody Ransom has got a good bulk of that playing time. And Ransom, saw him hit a long home run last night. He now has 4 on the year. He's driven in 12 and gets the start at third this evening. 0-2. I know we talk about it an awful lot, but down by 6 runs, you're not going to do that and steal a base and get yourself out of the potential of adding on, with a home run or with extra bases. But Molina and what he's able to do to control the running game, and the fact is too, this pitching staff, it's something they talk about, they work on quickness to the plate without sacrificing what they're trying to do to get the guy out at the plate, but neutralizing the running game. Tony was great at it, and Derek Lilliquist and his staff have done that too.
So there's really three factors at work: the pitchers holding runners on well, Molina a weapon behind the plate, and the Cardinals getting a lot of early leads. All three of those are in play, so the running game against the Cardinals has been almost non-existent.
First strikeout for Westbrook.
Shortstop number 16, Sean
Diamondbacks do run well, though. They're tied with the Cardinals for second in the National League with stolen bases. They have 27 each. Cardinals have been a little bit more successful in terms of percentage. Only the Miami Marlins with more stolen bases, they have 33. But that's an offense built on stealing bases with Reyes and Bonifacio. They're going to run. They're just going to run. Cardinals don't have to run. They've got some power. High average team. Really, offensively, you just can't ask for more right now. There's going to be some dry times, Dan, at some point as this season wears on, and we have to expect that. Houston was one of those times. First couple of games in Houston. A lot of folks watched the Cardinals play and they thought, what's the matter with these guys? No offense, no life. Well, when you're grounding out the second, it doesn't look like you're going to have much life.
Oh, 2 the count on John McDonald.
McDonald, like Ransom's, been pretty hot of late. 10 for his last 21.
See if he can't get the double play. Ballpark, as much as the Cardinals, you would think they're playing in a ballpark that is tiny, but you look out to center field, it's 407 dead center. Left center and right center, it's 413 with a very high wall, which they cleared a couple of times last night. Two and two.
I think there has to be some credit thrown the coaching staff's way here too. We talked about Mike Matheny, first-year manager, and a lot of these players really just kind of hitting on all cylinders, whether you're talking about Derek Lilliquist with the pitchers or the hitters. You know, this coaching staff, some of them are new as well. And for Mike Aldretti to be kind of running the show for Mike Matheny, that's what the bench coach does. That's a pretty critical job. It's an extremely critical job. You have to have faith in the guy who's your bench coach. Certainly faith in your pitching coach. There's Chris Maloney, the first base coach. And all these guys have other duties. Mike Aldretti, really the right-hand man to the manager. You have to trust Dyer Miller with your guys in the bullpen, that he's getting them ready to come out and pitch, and mentally, physically having them prepared in terms of who they might face in what situation. That's his job. And of course, Jose Oquendo's been doing it for years. He's the veteran holdover coach. But I think the coaching staff's been remarkable. John Mabry.
John, you don't see him in the dugout. He is working in the video room at home, and on the road they have the video set up, for instance, in the clubhouse here. Big old box that travels with the club, but it's got some pretty important information inside there.
Yeah, and he's kind of the master of that information, and he's a part of relaying, as he told us on the last road trip, some in-game adjustment material.
Double play ball, short second, and first. It's a double play. 6-4-3. Ian Kennedy trying to regroup. It's 6-0 in favor of St. Louis. Kennedy talking about his offseason. It was a offseason that he sticks to his own personal game plan of how he gets ready for spring training. As Alan Craig looks at a strike. 2 days a week. He's got elbow and rotator cuff strengthening exercises that he works on. He also does 2 days a week of strengthening his back and the scapula muscle. Make sure that that stays strong. He swims. He says that gets the blood flowing. But you don't like to mess with many pitchers, do you, Rick? I mean, they are creatures of habit. If they're comfortable doing something that they enjoy and gets them ready, and by the way, when you win 21 games, I think you just leave them alone.
I think there's some standard things that all pitchers will do. You have to have cardio, and you have to do it all winter, and you have to do quite a bit of it during the season just to maintain your stamina. Cardiovascularly, if you're going to pitch for 9 innings in a game, you're going to be out there for a couple of hours. You have to be in good shape, but you also have to have strength in your legs, especially the lower half. And whether that's from lifting or doing squats, guys do different things, but you got to do something.
And that's a leadoff walk. Wherever you go, you can take us with you. Fox Sports Midwest and MLB.tv. You can text @bat to 31826. Visit Cardinals.com. Cardinals will get home late tomorrow night or early morning on Thursday, however you want to look at it. Day off on Thursday, and then Friday, Atlanta comes to town. And our final look at Chipper Jones. Will go down as one of the great switch hitters of all time.
Switch hitter with power. We've seen one on display here tonight in Arizona.
You think about it too, he's one of the last a dying breed in Major League Baseball, and that's a player that more than likely is headed to the Hall of Fame and plays with one team, and that's the Braves.
Handful of players fit that description now. Derek Jeter would be one.
Ichiro, you would have to think, would be a player that, as long as he wants to play, will be in Seattle.
Well, Ichiro had a career before he had a career, though.
That's right.
Outstanding player in Japan.
2-1 is a high fly ball into shallow right. Upton makes the catch. Back to first, Craig.
Catcher Yadier Molina.
In steps Molina.
You had the task of facing the Cardinal lineup, and you started to kind of look through that lineup before your start. Went from top to bottom in the lineup. I would say it'd be a difficult task to kind of have a real good game plan about, well, now who do I really want to be careful with? You know, is it, okay, John Jay's up among the league leaders, so be careful with him. These guys don't strike out very much. Beltran has really good on-base percentage because he'll walk, so be careful with him too, because he's second in the National League in home runs. I mean, I don't know where you stop. You get to Yadier Molina, and you've got a 300 hitter who's really good with runners in scoring position. And, you know, if you're an opposing pitcher, you're not going to be afraid of the Cardinals, but you're going to be very confused as to how you attack them as far as the game plan is concerned.
Molina shoots it out to right, and Upton makes the catch. 2 down, and it brings in Schumacher.
Second baseman.
I asked John Mozeliak, I said, I know it's a very small sample size, but how would you tweak this team? I mean, you're always, as a GM, looking at ways to improve, and he said, right now, I wouldn't. He said, I really like the way, this was last week, he said, I really like the way that, you know, this team has come together, played well. You just saw that shot of Mike Matheny. He also said this was probably the perfect storm that came together for a guy with no experience to come in and be a manager, even though you're following a guy like Tony.
Well, he added to this, to the perfection of that storm by getting Carlos Beltran. So you give some credit
helps
to the general manager and to the owner for spending the money in that direction. But I think the pitching staff gets as much credit as anything else. What Jake Westbrook and Kyle Loesch and Lance Lynn have done with the absence of an Adam Wainwright victory and Chris Carpenter being hurt in April. 2 years in a row, no wins from your two aces, and yet you're still playing like you're playing.
In the air to right, and that drops in front of Upton. Craig into third and safe. Remember, he had the sore knee last night, but said that was not an issue coming into play here for game number 2. Pretty strong throw there by Upton, and this turned out to be a little closer than maybe we thought.
Well, you mentioned he has 5 tools in his toolkit, and this is one of them. A good strong arm, bang, bang, play at third. Guys with good arms like to show it off too. They just can't wait for an opportunity to throw. But what we've seen from Upton is he's also throwing the ball low on a line for the most part, where a cutoff man can handle it.
Descalso struck out his first time up. By the way, John Mozeliak is the honorary chair May 21st. Very special event, and that will benefit the American Parkinson Disease Association. That's May 21st at Lake Forest Country Club. Still spots are available for that very worthy cause. 1 ball, 1 strike. John will do a Q&A afterwards, and he's bringing loads of memorabilia to be auctioned off, and it should be a great day. Runners at first and third. 1 ball, 1 strike here on Daniel Descalso. Daniel needs something positive.
Seems to me, watching Descalso, and it's all about timing for hitting, and it's easy to see it from the outside. It's hard to handle it when you're actually the one doing it, but he just seems to be late in his approach to me. Everything, his trigger, everything just seems to be late, and the ball's already on him or by him. Just late with every swing.
2-2. Would this be one of those times that you'd see the runner from first trying to get in a rundown when you're up by 6, struggling Descalso at the plate?
That play didn't work very well last time we tried that.
No, it didn't. Ended the series with Milwaukee with Tyler Green. They did it a bunch, though, and worked on it in spring training.
I'm not sure I'd be doing a double steal with Alan Craig at third base under any circumstances right now.
Because of the knee.
Because of his knee. And he says it's fine, but let's just make sure it's fine over a long period of time.
Late with that swing. Strikeout of Descalso. Westbrook back to work when we come back. Cardinals have 6 runs tonight thanks to Carlos Beltran. He has 6 RBIs and 2 home runs. A 6-0 lead for Jake Westbrook. And Ian Kennedy, the starter, number 9 hitter for Kirk Gibson, will lead it off in the home half of the 3rd. Ian Kennedy is hitless this year. You know, Rick, you think about some of the players that the Yankees have had that they've given up on or parts of trades. They could use them right now as Descalso will make this play. And let's check in with Pat Paris. Where do we find you, Pat?
Well, of course, I'm out by the pool, and I've also got the grand slam ball hit by one Carlos Beltran right here. The pool in full effect. It didn't go into the pool. It's not a splashdown. It landed right here on this short wall, and a gentleman over here was able to scoop it up. I'll tell you this, Matt Carpenter's hit 1 in each day during batting practice, so maybe there's still a Cardinal out there that can make the pool a splashdown at some point tonight or tomorrow night.
Are you going to give that ball back?
I am. It's his. Fair and square.
I think you just run, and then you tell Carlos, I want some autographs.
I want it, yeah.
In return.
Yeah, if you want this ball.
And then you and I can talk about what we need to do on eBay. It's a business plan, Rick.
I like the way you're thinking, man. How good is Pat, by the way, to actually come up with the baseball right after? I mean, that's doing some legwork right there. That's Pat Paris.
So they have a pool here. They've got a pool, I believe, in the new stadium in Miami. Does that sound right? Or Shark Tank or something there.
Looking forward to seeing that stadium.
Big, spacious. Opposite way. This is well hit. Into the corner it goes, and the catch is made by Matt Holliday. Even that fly ball, the way that carried, Rick, the ball is just shooting out of here.
Not really a power guy either that hit the ball the other way, and Holliday ran it down right in front of the wall there. Yeah, every ball is carrying. That's why you like to have a pitcher like Jake Westbrook working on a day like today, because for the most part he's going to keep the ball on the ground, keep it in the infield.
Mentioned that Aaron Hill was the comeback player of the year a few seasons ago. That's cut off by Freese, and Craig can't come up with it. Base hit for Hill. Dealt with concussions a couple of years ago.
Right field, Justin Upton.
Extends the inning to Upton.
Tough play for David Freese. Almost gets his man. Good stretch. It's actually how Alan Craig tweaked his knee a bit, and maybe that's too strong a statement to call it tweaking a knee. It might have actually been a different part of his leg, but he hobbled around, let's put it that way, stretching just like that on a throw from Cardinal pitcher, and this time it came from David Freese, who was trying to save that infield hit. David still does not have an error at third.
I think we both would agree that his range looks better this year. He looks a lot more agile, smoother over at third.
No
Would you
question.
agree?
No question.
Upton was fooled on the first pitch, and again, same pitch, and yes, he went around. 0-2. Recently, Justin Upton dedicated a brand new field in this area. 31st Diamondbacks field the ball club has constructed. 3 identical pitches, and he just waves at it. Some boos. If you're just joining us, Beltran with 2 home runs tonight and 6 RBIs. And looking at the updated stats, he is now 2nd in home runs in the league, 2nd in RBIs. Little bouncer to third. Cody Ransom with it. 1 away. Back to the top of the lineup as the Cardinals this evening trying to pick up win number 19.
And we noticed about a week or so ago, Dan, that the Cardinals were having a lot of games where they're putting up crooked numbers. And today, another one of those days. And that happens when you've got power in your lineup. The Cardinals a 2 spot in the first, the slam in the second. And it just seems indicative of this offense. When they score in bunches. That tends to put the other team on their heels, too. Not just the pitcher, but everybody else. Take the running game out of the equation.
Fly ball, shallow left. We've seen a lot of home runs here, but what about what's happening in Major League Baseball? Josh Hamilton once, twice, 3 times. Yes, number 4. He goes 5 for 5, 4 home runs, 8 RBIs. First home run game in the major leagues since Carlos Delgado.
And only the 16th all time, and we all know the Cardinal that did that, Mark Whitten. Mark Whitten actually had a low number of career home runs for all the players that hit 4 home runs in one game, and there's some great names on that list. Mike Schmidt, Willie Mays, both did it.
Sean Green recently, I remember he did that recent baseball history when he was with the Dodgers against Milwaukee.
Go all the way back to Lou Gehrig, who did it in 1932. Mark Whitten only had 105 career home runs, yet had a 4 home run night. A little surprised Babe Ruth never did it.
This time they get Beltran as he strikes out. Cardinals baseball is brought to you by MyKiaSt.Louis.com. And right now at Jack in the Box, you can try the new Chipotle Chicken Club Combo for just $4.99 plus tax. A 6-0 lead for St. Louis. And we are in Phoenix, Arizona. Can't yawn yet. Too much action early on in these games.
More work to be done.
Miguel Montero, every team in baseball passed on him. He's from Venezuela and signed at a tryout camp. You never know what you may find. Said it was his final hope. Went to the tryout camp. D-backs took a flyer on him. And last year, to make a case, he was the best catcher in baseball. Great numbers. All-star season. Now the question is, how long will he last in Arizona? They've got some question marks as far as players that they'd like to keep. That's it out of play.
Montero does have 4 errors behind the plate for the Diamondbacks, but he's thrown out the highest percentage of runners in baseball. 43.7% of the runners for Kirk Gibson, so he's done a nice job behind the plate. And he can just flat out hit.
1-2 pitch. You know, that pitch right there is something we have not seen against St. Louis last night nor tonight. Just a pitch to get your attention, maybe take you off the plate a little bit, keep you honest, and we have not seen Arizona do that to the Cardinal hitters.
With 7 home runs, you almost expect it, don't you?
Yeah.
John Jay was hit by a pitch, but I'm not sure that it counted. That was kind of a little breaking ball that kind of came in on him.
Same thing with Beltran last night. Backhanded by Descalso, and he makes the play. We have a very busy weekend at Busch Stadium coming up. The Tony La Russa retirement night, and then on Saturday it's the AT&T lapel pin. Sunday, the David Freese giveaway, which is the bobblehead. Last time that you'll see Chipper Jones come through town. And still some seats remaining for all 3 nights. This is well hit in out of center, and John Jay makes the catch.
Left fielder, Jason Google.
Westbrook just keeps getting it done, Dan, and he's not really doing it the same way today. There's some balls hit into the outfield. We've seen a couple already. A couple of balls hit hard, but Jake Westbrook has been as consistent as anybody in the Cardinals starting rotation.
Some of the names, by the way, on Friday night that'll be in attendance: Dennis Eckersley, Dave Stewart, Jerry Reinsdorf, Tom Seaver, Joe Torre, Brian Jordan, Jim Edmonds, Walt Jocketty will be back, Carol Buck, the Bennis brothers. So organizations from Chicago and Oakland, St. Louis, well represented. Two balls, 1 strike, and 2 down. And initially, Rick, Tony said, don't do it. I don't want it.
Well, you can see how it'd be a little uncomfortable for him because he wants to give Mike Matheny space and stay away, and I think that's generally a good thing to do when there's power transition in any organization. Really, stay away for a while. Let the new guy get on track. Let him get his rules and his let it be his ballpark, and that's really what it's going to become, is Mike Matheny's organization. And that's going to start to permeate throughout the minor leagues, and you want to make sure the coaches are your coaches and the players are your players, and really everybody that works in the front office. So when Tony comes back, that confuses things a little, and he doesn't want to do that. So I could see why he would be hesitant to come back. But Cardinal fans really want to celebrate what happened last October. Tony obviously engineered it, was a big part of it, and needs to be honored for it. So a little unusual that you leave on such a high note, but he really has left this organization in good stand.
A 2-out walk. And Tony said it's not so much what it means to me, but what it represents for the 16 years of his players, his coaching staff that he had. The lack of turnover is amazing that he had with his coaching staff for the most part. Hitting coaches kind of came and went, but you had Oquendo, Bettini, Duncan, Marty Mason for a number of years. And the point that Tony clearly wanted to make was that the fans, without their support, many of the deals to bring in Edmonds, McGuire, and locking up players long term never would have happened. So it should be a very special night. Our understanding is Tony will join us in the booth early second or maybe third inning that night following his ceremony. 3-1 the count.
What I'd really like to see is for Tony to be with Jim Hayes in the postgame show and go ask the manager questions afterwards. Now that would be must-see TV.
With or without the shaving cream.
Either way.
And he went. I'm going to say that's a strike. I'm going to wish a happy 60th birthday to Brad Eubanks, who's taking in Cardinals baseball tonight on Fox Sports Midwest. Rick Horton, Dan McLaughlin, and Pat Paris with you from Phoenix, Arizona. Jim many times was trying to help Tony. We had the habit of shaving after games, and Rick, shaving cream would be all over the place, and Jim would try to help out Tony. There's a strikeout. Throwing his bat, it's Ransom. 6-zip. Ones that can really stand out. You get the feeling this could be one right here.
I was going to say I wouldn't want to throw this pitch. Behind in the count, bases loaded.
The 2-1 is hammered. Right center. Will it go? You bet. Grand slam. Grand slam. Beltran. If you missed it, you missed Beltran going deep. He has 2 home runs tonight, 6 RBIs on a night when Josh Hamilton has 4 home runs, 8 RBIs. And it's still fairly early in this game, only top of 5, so he might get 3, 4 plate appearances more. You never know. Matt Holliday is 1 for 2. We'll see how Mike Matheny wants to play tonight's game. Last night it turned into a little bit of just survival midway through, and then at the end, Lance Lynn, you seemed to be in control, but clearly the control wasn't as good as we've seen it as Holliday strikes out. So he was lifted after 5. J.C. Romero came in and had a poor outing, and all of a sudden the Diamondbacks were back in the game.
First baseman Alan Craig.
Paints Holliday. The early 7-0 lead last night is pretty clear in our memories, Dan, so you don't want to get too giddy about a 6-0 lead here tonight. Cardinal bullpen's going to be a little thinner. J.C. Romero had a rough night. Lance Lynn labored some. He had kind of a difficult strike zone, I thought, to work with last night, and it made his pitch count elevate, and he really had some kind of stress moments, even though he picked up his 6th straight victory and 6 starts. Only Bob Tewksbury as a Cardinal has done that, where your first 6 starts of a season, you win them all. But a lot of innings for that bullpen last night, so be interesting if Jake Westbrook could go a little bit deeper into the game.
Craig lines out to short. Girls on the Run, it's a 5K race, and that'll be this weekend. And Girls on the Run is a nonprofit organization that helps prepare thousands of young ladies for a lifetime of healthy living. And that race is Saturday downtown, and you can still register. Girls on the Run, stlouis.org. 2 outs and David Freese.
There's not a big discrepancy, Dan, but Jake Westbrook actually has the highest average of innings pitched per start among the Cardinal starters. Again, it's a small difference. He's averaged 6 2/3 innings every start. Garcia, Loesch, Lynn all just over 6. And part of that is the fact that his control has been better this year. So if he can get deeper into the game, I think Mike Matheny might rest a little bit easier with this big lead than he had to deal with last night. And of course, we hope that hiccup was just a hiccup. That's it for the Cardinal bullpen.
2-2 on David Freese. And Freese. It's a 1-hopper into the seats. Could be one of those games tomorrow, Rick, that if you win this, you may see that getaway lineup with the off day on Thursday for Mike Matheny.
A win here would guarantee that the Cardinals have at least a 500 road trip. Nice to get one of those sweeps we've been trying to get, though, and again, can't count this game as in the bag yet. Still so early.
Freese lines it foul.
But if you'd have told me that the Cardinals would have trouble picking up a victory in Houston and then they would come out to Arizona and rake the way they have and put up the power numbers and beat 2 starting pitchers who are having very good seasons so far, I thought maybe you were thinking backwards on that.
And there is a swing and a miss. A strikeout of David Freese. Westbrook has been given a 6-run lead. We're midway through 5. The Busch Bash is every Friday home game, and we've got Jack Clark there, the Ripper, Friday night. Cardinals.com/promotions. He'll be signing autographs out in the Ford Plaza. It's the Tony La Russa giveaway. And also his special night is the club will retire number 10. Strike 2 McDonald underway here in the home half of the 5th. We have a brand new Cardinal fan, Delaney Maureen Toll, was born this past weekend at 9:28 on May 5th. Delaney is the daughter of Melissa and Quayne Toll, and Melissa Toll works for the St. Louis Cardinals. Been there for a number of years, various ticket promotions and fan development. So congratulations to Melissa and her husband, Delaney Maureen Toll. I'm sure they're watching tonight because they're up and they may be up all night. So sit back and enjoy it, and congratulations. What a
Might want to record it and watch it again at 2 or 3 in the morning.
Because you'll be up.
Yep.
But congratulations. That's great. Here's a 3-2 pitch on its way. And a fly ball to center. Going back, John Jay makes the catch. And there's one out. Here's Kennedy. Kennedy grounded out back in the third. And a strike at the knees. He's 0 for 11 to start this year. There were some that believe that Kennedy should have been higher on that Cy Young list. And being the 4th place finisher. They've had some Cy Young Award winners in their young history here in Arizona, whether it be Randy Johnson or Brandon Webb. September 7th, 1993. Speaking of home runs,
hard hitting Mark Whitten.
4 that night. What a blast that was, and what a blast this is. The call by Jack Buck. Some believe that Mark Whitten was really never the same after that night.
You watch his swing and you realize he had such a long swing, and you know that's kind of unusual, and obviously his timing was right on time that particular night. And again, only 16 people, and you know, if you're Mark Whitten, you know, you get to tell a story about that night every place you go because you're one of 16 people in Major League Baseball history to do that. And there's 3 of them that were before 1900, so we don't even know who those guys are anyway.
Mark Whitten possessed a cannon in right field too. He had a heck of an arm. Game was 15-2. It lasted 2 hours and 17 minutes. You have a game that does that now, it makes headlines.
Ed Delahanty hit 4 home runs, Dan, in July of 1896 for the Phillies against the Chicago Colts. You remember that team. The oddity there is they lost 9-8. So he hit 4 home runs in a loss. I wonder if he was the star of the game and got interviewed afterwards.
You just hear Bob Hamilton right now on KMOX talking about Hamilton Jewelers.
Right, yeah.
The star of the game.
Ed Delahanty. 4 home runs.
And for being our star of the game. 6-0 St. Louis. It'll be Kyle Loesch tomorrow trying to pick up win number 5. This is brought to you by Budweiser. It's our What's on Tap. Loesch looking to go to 5-1 and possibly, let's hope, a Cardinal sweep tomorrow night. Here's Molina. 6th inning rolls in. 6-0 St. Louis. Molina is 0 for 2. They've retired 2 numbers here in Arizona. One was a number that all teams in Major League Baseball retired. And that's number 42, Jackie Robinson. But also Luis Gonzalez had the most famous hit in franchise history against the Yankees. Luis was at the ballpark today.
And I'm not sure what they call those guys that run around in between innings, the little dash that they do, or some places it's hot dogs and some places it's other things. But Luis Gonzalez and his big head won today. So I'm sure he's happy that his mascot, or whatever you want to call it, won today.
They have Gonzalez, they've got Mark Grace, Randy Johnson, and who am I missing? There's a 4th. Maybe it's Schilling.
I didn't notice who it was. I noticed he didn't win. I noticed that Mark Grace next to us was cheering for his guy to win. There they are now. Matt Williams.
There they are.
You know you've arrived when you've got a guy with a big head with your jersey on the back running around the bases in between innings. That's when you're a big league star.
1 ball, 1 strike. Thank goodness there was no Randall Simon incident.
Right.
Some people are saying, wait a minute, Randall Simon, what are you talking about? Randall Simon took a bat, I believe it was to Pierogi in the Pierogi race. Let's go back, though, to 2001. Randy Johnson, Curt Schilling, Ian Kennedy. But you're talking about Diamondbacks that had those 20-win seasons. Randy Johnson did it twice. Schilling was 22-6. And last year, Ian Kennedy, 21 wins.
And you say folks unhappy that he didn't finish higher in the Cy Young. 21-4, you could understand why. I mean, hard to be much better than that, but with what Cliff Lee and Roy Halladay and Clayton Kershaw did last year, it's just got us some tough competition.
Randy Johnson is now labeled as a professional photographer.
I did not know that.
He's done some NASCAR events. He's worked NFL games. He climbed the minor league ladder in 3 years with Montreal. But he's done some shoots for U.S. Press Wire and ESPN. He would stand out a little bit. You know, he's 6'10".
You'd think so.
Some unique angles. It's popped up off the bat of Descalso. And Kennedy has a 1-2-3 inning. Cardinals baseball on Fox Sports Midwest is brought to you by Taco Bell, Live Más, and by AT&T, the nation's largest 4G network. AT&T, rethink possible. Luis Gonzalez, the floater, just over short, and the Diamondbacks were the champions of 2001, a World Series that had so much significance to it because of 9/11. Yankees involved, just unbelievable finishes. Byung-Hyun Kim imploded.
A couple of times.
Yeah, the Yankees had those dramatic wins. Just a great World Series.
And really impressive what the Diamondbacks have been able to do as a young franchise too. They won early and they've been in the playoffs more times than you would expect a young team to do, and I think some of it's the pitching that we talked about. You know, Gonzalez certainly there's their history of being in the playoffs, and I think having the solid pitching like Johnson and Schilling is really the reason why they were able to be good in postseason and to get there.
They did it in 2 different ways too. Remember, they went out and spent big money to get Jay Bell and Matt Williams, Randy Johnson, Curt Schilling, those type of players. Luis Gonzalez turned into a different player here, so they had a little luck with that too. Descalso charging to first and not in time, and the second infield hit for Hill. He's 3 for 3.
The ground ball again that Jake Westbrook wants is, you could tell almost when that ball was hit, he had that little reserve, kind of concerned look on his face that, uh-oh, that's a high chopper, that's going to be a knock, and that's exactly what it was. Descalso did everything he could to try to throw him out. And you just don't want a big inning to start harmlessly like that, but we've seen it happen before. You're in a tough part of the lineup, 3, 4, and 5, and we saw it happen in the 6th inning last night, a 6-run 6th inning for the Diamondbacks. And they really did everything right in that inning. They just hit for power. Cody Ransom homered in that inning.
You got the feeling too that the game, it just got very quick for Mike Matheny, because at that time he didn't have anybody up and loose. As Schumacher going out, who wants it? The right fielder Beltran will take it, and there's one away. Well, and clearly Romero stayed in too long. Krispy Kreme deal, one of the 4 St. Louis area Krispy Kremes. Cardinals get 9 hits. You're invited into Krispy Kreme tomorrow.
You can see the thinking last night for Mike Matheny that, oh, just one more batter and he'll get the ground ball and it'll be fine. Just one more, just one more, just one more. And it just never worked out. And I think if Mike Matheny had to do it over again, he would certainly rethink that situation, maybe go get Fernando Salas into the ballgame a little sooner. Salas didn't fare much better the first couple of hitters until he settled down to strike out the side. 90 pitches for Westbrook working in the 6th.
That's pulled foul. A couple things that a manager loves to see is the emerging bullpen and who stands out. And I think at this point, you've got to look at Victor Marte as becoming more of a factor on this team. And, you know, Romero struggled, but Marte, and you pointed out to me after the game last night just how well he has pitched statistically against lefties.
Game's on the line right now, and you've got somebody that has to pitch the 9th, and Jason Mott's not available. I don't have any problem saying that Victor Marte is a guy I'd go to. Now, Mitchell Boggs would be the other one. But Marte seems to have a little bit more command, although Boggs this year has had that command. He still worries you about that because his ball moves so much, it's harder to command. But Marte was the closer in AAA last year, so you know he can do it. You know he can handle that part of the game and all that comes with it. So I don't think he'd be a bad choice.
2 balls and 2 strikes with a runner at first and 1 down. It's been Jaime Garcia at times. It's been the interpreter for Marte for reporters when they want to talk to him after games.
Played with Fernando Valenzuela. Of course, Fernando came over to the Cardinals at the end of his career too. Many folks don't remember that, but it's kind of a short stint as a Cardinal after a long-time career as a Dodger. And you know, Fernando early on had people kind of interpreting for him too, but having played with Fernando, I can assure you he knew every word everybody was saying all the time. He was very funny teammate, very dry sense of humor, and he knew what was going on, trust me. He would pretend he didn't.
Cardinals picked up experience last year. They're young bullpen guys. Crucial spots like a Boggs, and at that time Lance Lynn, certainly Jason Mott. You just wonder in the back of Mike Matheny's mind about a Scott Linebrink and where he may fit into the picture when it all settles. It's taken low and in.
Does he hit the corner or not? Good movement. Perfect pitcher's pitch from Westbrook.
Here's a 3-2. Same pitch. That time it's a strike.
Should have been out on the 2-2 pitch. How about the 3-2 pitch? Well, the end count is correct. You know, I think the way you handle the pitchers coming back, Dan, whether it's Scott Linebrink or Chris Carpenter, and I know folks are still thinking, what are we going to do with Lance Lynn when we get Chris Carpenter back? Well, in my mind, Chris Carpenter's not even close to coming back, so why worry about that? That's number one. And I'm not that bullish on Chris Carpenter being ready anytime soon. Now, maybe he will. Maybe he'll surprise. Maybe he'll wake up one day and his shoulder's fine. Maybe he'll get his arm in shape and in 5 days and be ready to pitch. Well, that's not going to happen. I just don't think it is. We're hoping to see Chris Carpenter at some point during this season. But to worry about what you're going to do with your rotation now, I think is counterproductive. I think you get players ready. The training staff gets as many good players ready to go as fast as they can on the right timetable, and then you worry about it when it happens. And 9 times out of 10, there's an opening and a need. Somebody's hurt. Somebody else is not performing well. Right now, the Cardinal starting staff, and you're looking at 4 of them right there, have been spectacular.
1-2 the count on Paul Goldschmidt. You mentioned he was the MVP at AA, also was the MVP the year before that, single A.
I like the way those starting pitchers are hanging out together. The 4 of them just almost like they're like roped together. I mean, they're just totally next to each other, discussing what's happening and learning from each other, and almost inseparable.
So what's Carpenter doing there?
Looking for a friend, I guess.
Yeah. 2-2 is a ground ball to short. Descalso flips to second for the out. Mike Matheny and the Cardinals, they lead it 6-0. Carlos Beltran, not once but twice. He's homered tonight. That one would be the grand slam, and it's our Nissan drive of the game. 6 RBIs for Beltran.
What a night for him. Cardinals have shown power in this series. Just 6 hits as Ian Kennedy has settled down. He's retired 10 straight batters, but a lot of damage early on. Very hard to overcome against the Cardinals pitching staff because they just don't give up runs in bunches very often.
There's Jake Westbrook. The fly ball to right. All of a sudden, after the first couple of innings, Ian Kennedy has settled into this ball game. Fans, you can chat live throughout the season in the Jack in the Box Ask the Expert chats on FoxSportsMidwest.com. Our next chat will be hosted by BJ Rains tomorrow night. It's Ask the Experts at FoxSportsMidwest.com. John Mozeliak, one of the best parts of his job, handing out World Championship rings. And he was doing that today. That's opposite way. That'll stay in the ballpark as Jay hits it just shy of the track. Once again, it's Friday night. Just a handful of seats remaining. We told you about the star-studded cast that will be part of this on Friday night. The Tony La Russa retirement figurine this Friday. It's brought to you by Ameren, Missouri. We will carry that ceremony live for you. Roughly around 6:45 that will begin.
Imagine what this year would be like just for a moment, Dan, had the Cardinals gotten off to a 8-20 start.
Oh yeah.
And what pressure they would be feeling collectively as a team, and where the fingers would be pointing about the leadership change, the first baseman being gone, the pressure on the general manager. And I don't know that anybody would have expected that to happen, but it can happen in baseball. The Red Sox are off to a bad start. The Phillies are. They'll be good teams at the end of the season, I can assure you, both of them. But the Cardinals off to a good start, and they've been able to avoid a lot of that stress and pressure, and used the term perfect storm earlier to just describe how almost fairy tale this has been for the Cardinals and a first-year manager, Mike Matheny. I think you're going to find out even more about this team when they lose 8 out of 9 games, whenever that is. And during the length of a baseball season, we know that happens every year. How do you handle losing day after day after day, and how does Mike manage the club, and how do the coaches respond when that happens?
Strikeout of Beltran, who's 2 for 4. And it's time to stretch here in Arizona. Glad you're with us tonight here in Arizona. It's our AT&T trivia question. Since 2002, who was the last Cardinals player to have a 2020 campaign? And Reggie Sanders did it back in 2004. What a good guy Reggie Sanders was to have around, wasn't he?
No question.
Number of years in the big leagues spent with Cincinnati, and briefly with the Padres.
Played here.
Played here in 2001. It's with Atlanta, the Giants, Pittsburgh, and finished up with the Royals back in 2007. Over 300 home runs for Reggie Sanders.
Reggie would be one of those players, and you can think of a handful of others. Todd Zeile would be maybe one of those kind of players that put up good numbers, played for a lot of teams, put up good numbers, and you think, why do they keep getting traded? What's the deal? And you almost default to this idea it must be a bad guy, but in both those cases, absolutely not. Todd Zeile, good teammate, so was Reggie Sanders.
More than over 400,000 Americans die each year from smoking-related illnesses, cancer, heart disease, stroke. 10,000 alone in Missouri. And you can call the Missouri Tobacco Quit line to quit right now. 1-800-QUIT-NOW. That's a foul ball. I'm sure Joe Garagiola appreciates that message. And he is prominently displayed with pictures up here in the press booth. Spent time in St. Louis, the broadcast team, way back when. All those years on the national game that he was a part of.
Really broke the mold originally, didn't he, of maybe making it a little lighter and being a little more comical. And Bob Uecker, of course, has been that kind of broadcaster. Joe is very popular.
You know, though, you listen to Bob, and when he does a game, he's pretty straight.
He is.
But obviously, when he's doing functions and he's the MC, he's as good as they come. There's a strikeout.
Or when he's in the lunchroom.
He is a funny guy. Boy, oh boy. I believe he's had the most appearances ever on the Johnny Carson program.
8 strikeouts. 8 strikeouts, Dan, for Jake Westbrook. That one on a slider. Just another dominating night for him. Only 2 walks. Working quickly, but not too quickly.
Cal McClellan is throwing right now in the Cardinal bullpen, getting loose.
Watching Jake last year, I believe he worked so quickly he was actually rushing, and it was actually a negative. And, you know, most of the time you're trying to get your pitchers to work faster, but in his case, I think it's been good that he slowed down a bit.
Nice play by Descalso and the pick by Craig at first, and they take the hit away. Decision time for Mike Matheny. Will it keep Jake in for another 3 more outs? 6-zip St. Louis. Time now to go back to the studio and this Bomberito Sports Update with the Cat.
Thanks, Dan. History in Baltimore for Josh Hamilton. He becomes the 16th player in Major League history to hit 4 home runs. Also had a double, the 18 total bases, and American League record. Guys, we send it back to you in Arizona.
The Cat will be with Hungo coming up later. Jake Westbrook is our Schnucks difference maker. 7 innings, 4 hits, walk 2, and 8 strikeouts. That's a bit surprising for Jake. And a new pitcher is in, a righty for the Arizona Diamondbacks, Matt Holliday.
Brad Ziegler, we saw him last night. He's been very tough in his career against right-handed batters. Matt Holliday doesn't like that first strike call. Ziegler, one of the top 8 in all of baseball in terms of batting average against right-handed batters. And what's he do? Give up a hit to a right-handed batter.
Again, this right-hander, a Missouri State alum, part of that 2003 team that was on the College World Series in Omaha.
If you look at the lowest batting average of those top 8, 2 of them were Cardinals, Jason Mott and Fernando Salas. A little surprised about Mott. Righties only hit 162 against him last year, and Salas 164. Ziegler's on that top 10 list.
Now it's Alan Craig. A strike at the knees. It's our Chevy call to the pen. And a 0-1 pitch. Double play ball. Out at second. And it's a double play. Second double play the Cardinals have hit into tonight.
We talked about Kirk Gibson talking to his players about going in hard to second base. Matt Holliday does the same thing. Doesn't really matter the score. You just play the game right. There's the late slide. Trips up Aaron Hill, but he successfully completes the double play.
As Kirk Gibson would say, I never let up. I was going hard into second base every chance I got.
He's one of those guys. Bo Jackson was like that too. You could almost hear him running. I mean, they were just strong guys that ran fast, that were just different than everybody else. And there's a football speed, and of course we all know how fast football players are, and they're big and strong, and yet they're still fast. You just don't see baseball players like that quite as often. You're either one or the other most of the time.
Kirk Gibson was the manager of the year in the National League. And to me, is a little bit surprising, Rick, that first manager ever to take his team from worst to first in his first full season. He took over for A.J. Hinch. But you would have thought in all the years of baseball somebody had done that before Kirk Gibson, but not so, as Freese is out at first. It's time now for our AT&T Uverse Reverse Recap. And a story tonight, two of them. Westbrook, the 8 strikeouts. Beltran with all 6 driven in as we go to the bottom of the 8th. Chevy called to the pen, and here's Kyle McClellan.
Done a nice job out of the Cardinals bullpen as a guy that during the offseason you weren't sure where he would be, what his status would be. Double switch with McClellan. Matt Carpenter now playing first base. He'll bat 9th. So Alan Craig is through for the night. 3.46 for McClellan.
Long way to go in right field. But over to get it, Beltran. He had a new combination up the middle too tonight. And I was going to bring this up with a ground ball pitcher like Jake Westbrook, as you get a look at the Hyundai replay here, and that's brought to you by Hyundai and Foxmo Cam. But you know, Rick, you're going to get a lot of ground balls. You may have sacrificed a little defense with those two at times.
Well, you want to make sure guys are in the infield that can get the job done. Those guys did in the second inning. 6 double plays that Jake Westbrook has induced this year, up among the league leaders in that category, and pretty workmanlike performance for Jake Westbrook. The strikeouts were high, the ground balls were high. Typical Jake Westbrook, at least in 2012.
Top of the lineup, and Parra. Thinking along here with Mike Matheny. Situation, Rick, that you could extend Kyle McClellan if he has an efficient 8th into that 9th inning, and leave him in and save your bullpen.
And I like that about Mike Matheny, that he's not afraid to let his bullpen guys go longer than just come in and pitch to a guy and let's get overly excited about lefty righty in a 6-0 game. Kyle McClellan knows how to pitch 2 innings. He can handle 2 innings. You mentioned earlier, like Marte, a guy that's pitched well against left-handed batters as well, so I see no reason you can't leave him in for 2.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by the authority of the St. Louis Cardinals and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cardinals. Kyle McClellan with a true 12-6 breaking ball when he's right. And it is one of the best breaking balls coming out of the bullpen Cardinals have. Also mixes in a cutter and a sinker. There's the ground ball to third. And David Freese makes the play. That sends us to the ninth. Redbirds on top. 6-zip.
Back at Chase Field in Phoenix, Arizona. Cardinals going to the ninth inning with that 6-0 lead over the D-backs. Right afterwards, of course, Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live. Jim Hayes, Al Raboski in studio. They'll talk about Carlos Beltran's big night. Also, Al will break down Jake Westbrook change in mechanics that helped him tremendously tonight, and also a little mic'd up from Mike Matheny. There's Derek Lilliquist. Got to be very pleased with the way that Westbrook pitched this evening. Dan, Rick, back to you.
All right, Pat, thanks. 6-zip St. Louis. They've allowed just 4 hits. The 7 innings by Westbrook, inning by Kyle McClellan. And there is a righty that's throwing in the pen right now for the Redbirds. Zagurski, we saw him last night, the lefty, and he'll pitch the 9th inning this evening. Zagurski, his numbers in 4 games. Roberts takes over at third base. And there is a base hit for Yadier Molina down into the left field corner. You think about what Molina's been able to do with the bat, Rick, and it's not just the singles or punching Judy. I mean, this guy is driving the ball with 4 home runs and a ton of doubles early on this season.
Double number 12 for Molina. Hooked it just inside the foul line down the left field line, and he's hit a lot of balls hard this year.
Here's Schumacher. Two hits tonight for Skip. Now here you have a 6-run lead, but yet you're still trying to add to this lead and play baseball the right way, which would be either drive them in or pull it to the right side, advance the runner.
No question. Hit the ball the right side, and if anybody's going to play the game of baseball the right way, it's Skip Schumacher.
Exactly.
And what's interesting about Skip is when he came off the disabled list for being hurt, his timing was right on time. Last year he came off too soon. His timing wasn't good. Got off on the wrong foot with the bat. But this year, just swinging the bat very well. But it's hard to find him enough at bats right now. He didn't play himself out of the lineup, that's for sure. Tyler Green's had some productive days at second base. And really, Skip Schumacher was supposed to be the extra outfielder. And I almost didn't expect him to play any second base this year. But when Tyler Green and Descalzo got off the slow starts, I think Mike Matheny started rethinking that a bit.
Just missed high and outside. It's a 2-year deal that Skip signed to remain in St. Louis.
When Zagurski comes set, he looks so uncomfortable to me. He's actually in a hunched over position, and you think, okay, well, that's a way that he can be quick to home, but he's not. Because after he comes set, he has to stand back up again to actually get into a comfortable position. So I'm sure it works for him, but as he comes set, that does not look comfortable to me. Then he goes up and pitches.
And a swing and a miss by Skip. He strikes out. One of the very unique aspects on the resume of Kirk Gibson is that he won an MVP but never appeared in an all-star game. That's hard to believe, isn't it? Gibson, you would think Tony La Russa may look at him some capacity this year. A lot of times you see the managers of the all-star teams will pick managers that they're comfortable with, but also guys that had success from the year before, but maybe Tony's still upset over that home run.
Yeah, he would always say, "You have my ring," to anybody that was part of that Dodger team in 1988. In classic Tony fashion, he would say it that way.
What do you think? He'll get the band back together for the All-Star game. You'll see McKay and Bettini and some of the Cardinals, that staff that may be back together. Now, does he get to pick that staff? You know, that's something else as well. Does he work in conjunction with Major League Baseball? Is it his choice? Descalso hits it on a hop to short. We remind you that Cardinals baseball on Fox Sports Midwest is brought to you by Smooth Bush Beer and easy drinking Bush Light. Chase Field in Arizona. I'm sure Major League Baseball will have a say of some sort with what Tony may do.
It's hard to imagine whether or not they'll want more say because Tony's not a manager of a current team, too. So that could be the case.
Here's Matt Carpenter, part of the double switch. Cardinals did have a righty getting loose in the pen, but that may change. Opposite way. Will it stay in the ballpark? It will. Just shy of the warning track, and we head to the bottom of the ninth. There's a look at John Jay and the Cardinals' leadoff men in this series. Last night it was Furcal with a home run, and tonight it was John Jay with a triple out to left center that just got by. Watch this dive from their center fielder Parham. That's brought to you by Hyundai. Got by him, went to the wall, and Jay would come around to score the home run by Beltran.
It was a decent pitch. I hadn't noticed how good that pitch was until we saw the replay there. Just down and away. Got things going for the Cardinals in that first inning. Beltran first of 2 home runs. Mitchell Boggs will pitch the 9th. And really this is a case, Dan, of him just needing work. He did pitch once in the Houston series, but really only a couple of times in the last 10 days. So Mitchell Boggs, who's had a nice start to the season, gets the 9th.
Mitchell Boggs pitched on Saturday, 2/3 of an inning against the Astros. So tonight he'll be asked to get the final 3 outs. Although it looks like Romero throwing in the bullpen.
Would almost have to think that that's a just working on mechanics move. And you know, it makes sense for relievers to wait until the end of the game if you've got something you want to work on, to just do it at the end after you're reasonably sure you're not going to be needed. There's some teams that played for where they would do that with relievers actually after the game was over. You'd wait till the game was over, then get some work in. Dyer Miller with Romero. And there are other teams where you do it in the afternoon, get a bullpen early enough before a game that your arm could come back and you'd be ready to pitch. I actually prefer that method myself, but there are a lot of different views.
Base hit, and it brings in Montero. Miguel Montero 0 for 2, the walk back in the first inning. He's batting .271. He's flied to right, struck out, and also bounced into a fielder's choice. Strike on the outside corner at 96 from the former QB. Imagine catching some of those tight spirals. Put a hole in your chest. There's a shot in the left center. That ball will get down. Upton on his way to third. He will score. Montero drives him in. And the Diamondbacks get on the board at 6-1.
Location down middle. Montero can swing the bat. Upton makes sure it's down, then takes off. And you just hope that's not the beginning of one of those Diamondback innings that we've seen already in this series. You mentioned yesterday, Dan, that this is an outstanding come-from-behind team.
Last year they had 48 comeback wins, most in Major League Baseball. And looks like Molina was crossed up, and let's hope he's not hurt. Here comes Chris Conroy, one of the Cardinal trainers, and Yachty is shook up a bit.
I wonder. There's something to do certainly on the glove hand, and he's taking the glove off now. Tried to catch that ball awkwardly, and it sure did look like he was crossed up. Wasn't the pitch that he thought it was going to be. Again, sometimes it's just the movement of Mitchell Boggs that makes it difficult to catch him.
I agree with you, Rick, and I think, though, in this case, clearly he was crossed up. Just watching how he went after this. Looked like he thought it was going to dip, and that catches him right on the wrist. Agreed?
Looking for a slider, and it was a sinker. Yeah, I would say so.
Of all the players you think about Cardinals could ill afford to lose, Molina might be at the top of your list. And it looks like his night is through. Cruz will come in.
That's certainly going to swell, and that's just, I think at this point you just need to get ice on it as soon as possible. I don't know that they're, well, we'll have to wait and see how concerned they would be if this is something serious for Yadier Molina. It doesn't necessarily have to be, but I think getting ice on it as soon as possible and trying to get him ready to play as soon as possible is what they're thinking. Tony Cruz takes over for Mike Matheny behind the plate. And Mitchell Boggs has some work to do. To add insult to injury, I believe they called that a pass ball.
One and two the count on Goldschmidt. That's a nasty pitch there, held on to by Cruz, and a strikeout. Cardinals may win this game, but right now everybody has to be concerned about what's going on with the hand or the wrist area of Yadier Molina.
That would be concern guy number one, Mike Matheny, and I believe the pitcher's probably a little concerned about it as well. And he's got a job to do. He's got to think, he's got to forget about that, but he realizes that by crossing up Molina, I'm never quite sure. You never really know who's got that wrong until you ask him to who was looking for the wrong pitch. Sometimes that's the catcher's fault. Sometimes it's the pitcher's fault. But either way, you've got a catcher that had to leave the ball game.
Your emergency catcher, Descalso.
Yes.
Two balls, no strikes on Kubel.
Jim Hayes did that very fine investigative reporting last week to find out that Daniel Descalso is the emergency catcher. Never really done it before, but somebody has to be able to.
And that's a walk, and this inning turning into a nightmare right now for Mitchell Boggs. Cody Ransom has moved from third to short. And our player of the game is brought to you by Budweiser. Carlos Beltran, pair of home runs, 6 RBIs. Probably the last thing that Mike Matheny wanted to do is get anybody else up and get them ready here in the 9th inning.
Plenty of us played second guesser on Mike Matheny last night and said maybe he left in Romero a bit too long. So now let's do it right now. How far do you go with Mitchell Boggs? One more batter, 2 more batters.
So your closer has to get up. And a strike. Double play, and you've taken the series and a chance at a sweep tomorrow. The slider misses outside. Yeah, if you get to a point where Ransom would reach, I mean, Rick, at that point, I think you've got to look at saying enough's enough.
I agree.
There's a strike. 2-2.
One thing Mitchell Boggs was not able to do often enough last year is minimize the damage. But his control has been much better this year, and he should be able to do that better. We'll see if he can do it tonight.
Slider that misses. Very well could have been a called third strike.
Is it a strike? There's a slider. It is a strike.
And that is a strike. Goodness. Did Boggs get a gift there?
Sinker down in the zone. Pitchers hope for that pitch, Dan, but don't often get it.
So Lyle Overbay has been splitting time at first base. Saw him start last night. Two and 0. Eleven strikes, 13 balls from Mitchell Boggs. Would you be tempted if Overbay reaches here to bring in Mott?
Yes. I just don't think you can go much further than one more batter. You're hoping for something good here. And they have to come all the way back and get Overbay. But in my mind, this is his last hitter, period. It's either we all shake hands or Jason Mott comes in the game.
And the Diamondbacks are down to their final strike. Here's a 3-2, and there it is. The ball game, 6-1. The Cardinals win it, and it's a called third strike to finish off game number 2.
Interesting ninth inning for Mitchell Boggs, but the Cardinals really in command throughout. Dan, the 6 runs in the first 2 innings, thanks to Carlos Beltran, who is certainly our star here tonight.
So Beltran with a pair of home runs. Cardinals win it 6-1. Don't go away. Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live, the post-game show, comes your way next.
Carlos Beltran, a one-man gang as the Cardinals beat the D-backs 6-1. Al Roboski here to break it all down on the post-game edition of Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live. And Al, 2 home runs from Beltran, 6 RBIs. We're kind of getting used to that, aren't we?
Well, we sure are. You know, I used to be at times critical of the offense that they would score early, but they couldn't add on. Now they're scoring early, but they're scoring in such big bunches, they don't need to add on. And Westbrook was very, very good again tonight.
Much more from Hungo coming up. Plus, Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live is where the wild things are, so let the wild rumpus start. Jake Westbrook on the hill, looking to send the D-backs to bed without dinner. We'll tell you why he was able to don his scary wolf suit tonight. Plus, the Cardinals looking to stare into Ian Kennedy's eyes and make him blink. And we'll take you inside the wild forest of Mike Matheny's mind for his post-game musings. Please don't go away. We'll eat you up. We love you so. Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live is coming up next.
Welcome to Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live.
The 2-1 is hammered. Right center. Will it go? You bet. Grand slam. Grand slam. Beltran.
Beltran's 10th career grand slam, 2 homers on the night, 6 RBIs for Beltran. Cards win 6-1. They've now won 3 straight. Hello, everybody, and welcome inside our Fox Sports Midwest studios for the late night edition of Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live. He's Al Roboski. I'm Jim Hayes. Coming up, we'll break down Jake Westbrook's night tonight. We'll also get Cardinal player reaction. But, Al, a big win for the Cardinals, who really seem to enjoy the desert air.
Well, they really are swinging the bats out there. By the way, Beltran is only on pace for 54 home runs this year. And now David Freese has a little competition in the RBI department. But I tell you what, you know, it's really nice to see these starting pitchers taking the mound on the road with a lead. And, boy, Jake Westbrook knew what to do with it. He was very good tonight, but it was a good all-around game for the Cardinals. Let's just hope Molina's not hurt.
You're in good spirits almost.
I'm in really good spirits, you know.
You know why? Because the tweet is on. We want your questions or comments. Just tweet them to us at FS Midwest, and we'll answer some of them on the air throughout the show. Let's head back out to Chase Field. Pat Paris catching up with Carlos Beltran moments ago. He's our Mid-America Chevy Dealers Player of the Game. Pat?
All right, Jim, thank you very much. Been a great week for you producing home runs and the RBIs. The second time in a week you've had 2 home runs in a game, and tonight it was the grand slam that was a big shot.
Well, just thank God for that. I think it's always great every time you come to the ballpark and contribute to help the team win. This time was offensively, so, you know, I think we did a great job. Westbrook went out there, you know, he's struggled a little bit in the first couple innings, but he was able to battle himself and came back and, you know, pitched 7 strong innings for us.
Ian Kennedy, you guys jumped on him early, and it was a good thing because he really got pretty good at the end.
Yeah, he got good. You know, the first couple innings, he was kind of leaving balls in the middle of the play. After that, he was kind of like hitting the corners and, you know, using the changeup and the curveball for strikes. So, I mean, he was a 20-game winner pitcher last year, so he's a good pitcher.
You guys are jumping on teams early. This is 8 straight games you've scored a run in the first inning. What does that say about you guys?
Well, you know, we're going to come here and swing the bats, you know, that's for sure. You know, we have a lineup that, you know, anyone in the lineup can hurt the opposing team. So, you know, we're happy that we're starting the way we're starting, and looking forward to continue that way.
And I know you guys are concerned about Yachty there in the 9th inning.
Yes, we are concerned, actually. You know, I just can't wait to go inside and ask him and see how he feels.
Well, nice job tonight. Congratulations on the win.
Thank you. Thank you.
Carlos Beltran, let's go back to St. Louis. Jim?
All right, Pat, thanks a lot. Last week, Beltran, a similarly big game. In this one, 7 RBIs, 4 hits, couple of home runs. He's had quite a career in a couple of games, Al.
Well, 32 multi-home run games for Carlos now, and, you know, he's got half his RBIs in those 2 games. And right now we say keep on going. But, you know, he's just a good player. He's just really nice to see him in that lineup, and very solid.
Let's take a look at what he did tonight. He helped the Cardinals get on the board in the first inning. And when he's in a groove, balls just fly off his bat.
Just a deep home run, almost to the back row in right field. And then his second inning, he comes up with the bases loaded, a little hanging breaking ball, and he knew what to do with it. Another deep home run right out into the party area out there where the pool's at.
All right, well, a big night for Carlos Beltran. You know, you talk about Beltran when he's healthy. He produces like this. He hasn't always been healthy, but obviously he's feeling pretty good.
No doubt about it. And when you really talk to him, boy, he is really a nice young man, very engaging, and he's very happy. He really thought he would be happy and productive in St. Louis, and his family's happy, and that's always helpful.
Some notes on Carlos's night. 10th career Grand Slam, 32nd multi-home run game in his career, 6th career 6 RBI game. That's a lot. And first Cardinal to hit home runs in the first and second innings of a game since 2006. Our good friend Chris Duncan did that. Let's get back to Phoenix. Dan McLaughlin and Ricky Horton, the guys who called the game for you. It's a view from the booth and another offensive show, guys, and some pretty good pitching to boot.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later, looking ahead to Kyle Loesch getting that start in Game 3 tomorrow. But the back end of this game, with everything that was positive, a negative comes from it, and I'm sure we're going to hear from Mike Matheny, and Pat will have the report momentarily. But you're a little concerned, Rick, with the status of Yadier Molina.
Yeah, it makes the win a little somber, doesn't it? You start to think about what really is going to happen with Yadier Molina. Here's the pitch. He's looking for a slider. It's a sinker. Comes back over the plate, catches him full on the back of the hand, and Chris Conroy out to attend to Yadier Molina, and they both decide, along with the Cardinal manager, that that's enough. And I'm sure that we're going to find out more as it progresses. We may not know till tomorrow really how he recovers from this and how he feels the next day is always a bigger question. But certainly, it kind of takes some of the joy out of this victory. It was a nice victory for the Cardinals, winning 2 straight against the Diamondbacks. But Yadier Molina, as you said, Dan, during the telecast, is probably the guy that you can least afford to lose in this ball club.
I'll find it interesting, too, to see exactly what kind of lineup Mike Matheny goes with tomorrow. Cardinals have been on the verge of so many sweeps already this year in the first 5 or 6 weeks of this regular season. You just wonder if Mike says, okay, let's put the A group out there and let's go for a sweep. We have the off day on Thursday and then look ahead to Friday.
You expect Tyler Green to be in the lineup. They have a lefty going tomorrow.
Right.
And you'd also certainly see Furcal back. Furcal just getting a day off. He needed a much-needed day off. No reason for him not to play other than the fact that he's played every day. And so you'll see you won't see the lefties in the lineup, so that'll be different. The real question is who's going to be behind the plate.
Yeah, that is the big question, but a nice win for the Cardinals tonight, 6-1. Hungo and Jim, let's send it back to you.
All right, guys, thanks a lot. Let's take a look at the highlights from this one. And the first batter of the game is John Jay. Last night, Rafael Furcal led off with a home run. Tonight, it's Jay leading off with a triple as that ball scoots all the way to the wall, and Jay has decent speed. The next batter, Carlos Beltran. And Carlos, for the second straight night, goes deep. This one, a bomb, an absolute bomb to right. His 9th homer of the year. Cardinals go up 2-0. Top of the second, the bases are loaded, and here comes that guy again. It's Beltran, and he's going to get a hold of another one. This, my friends, a grand slam, his 2nd home run of the night, 6th RBI, and this game was in its early stages, 6-0 Cardinals. And 6 runs more than enough for Jake Westbrook. And Jake was strong tonight.
Yeah, he knew what to do. He made some corrections. You can see how he kept the ball down very well today, got all the ground balls. He also had 8 strikeouts in this ball game. So Jake Westbrook was right on top of his game, and he has pitched well in the desert, and he continues to do so tonight.
Scary moment in the 9th. Boggs on, and Yadi gets crossed up, and that ball catches his wrist, back of his hand. We're not sure exactly what it is right now, but he did come out of the game. As you can see, Yadi in some pain. And so there's a question as to what will be with Yadier Molina. But Al, from appearances, you just can't tell the severity of what Yadi's going through.
And you probably really won't know for 48 hours, or at least until tomorrow morning initial. But they'll do x-rays. They'll get some immediate treatment right there, and let's just hope for the best.
We'll get some initial thoughts from Mike Matheny coming up in the show. We do know this. The Cardinals beat the Diamondbacks 6-1. Again, Jake Westbrook going 7 innings and picking up the W. Nice to see Holiday continuing to hit. It seems like Holiday is coming around a little bit.
No doubt. A couple hits now. He just, if you look at probably the last 10 games, he's starting to hit like we're accustomed to see. And a look at the Cardinals have won 19 games out of the first 30.
All right, well, let's talk about the first inning of this one. It certainly helps your starting pitcher when they're working with a little cushion, and the Cardinals offensively have been getting to work in the early going.
Yeah, you can't emphasize that enough, but when a pitcher takes the mound and he's already got a little bit of a cushion, so you say, and the Cardinals are doing this day after day. This is 8 straight games. Every game in May that they have played, they've scored in the first inning, and that's outstanding. Probably won't continue, but we sure wish it would.
All right, let's take a look at how the Cardinals get it done in the early going. First inning last night, Al, and you can't start off better than this. Furcal wasn't in the lineup tonight as he got a day of rest.
Yeah, well, he needed it, but this is 30th leadoff career home run of his career, and then it didn't start. Start right there. Alan Craig gets a base hit. He looks like he may need a day off, as he kind of was moving around a little slow a little bit. There's another hanger, just jumps on this pitch into the corner. Allen's going to race around the bases. Looked good running there, but he banged that knee late in the game at first base trying to get a throw. And today seemed like a little bit moving a little slow also. Yadi with another solid base hit out to right. And there was an extra step there by Upton, and look at the slide as David Freese is allowed to slide around the high tag.
And tonight in the first inning, it was John Jay that got things going.
Unbelievable.
This thing,
this
thing rolls for a while.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter who's out there. The Gold Glove left fielder playing center field. Parra couldn't come up with that one, and John Jay gets a triple. Cardinals are tied for the Major League lead in triples, and then we also know they've hit the most home runs in the National League. Thank you, Carlos.
Yeah, we're going to show a lot of Carlos Beltran going deep. Why not? But it just shows how the Cardinals open things up in the early going. Holiday gets a base hit here. And in the first inning this season, we'll take a look at how the Cardinals have fared by the numbers. 29 runs scored, first in Major League Baseball. Scored in first inning 15 times.
15 out of 30.
That's unbelievable. And scored multiple runs in first inning 8 times. That is also first in Major League Baseball. Well, Al, I know you love the Twitter tweets, and the tweet is on. So
I don't mind answering them.
This is from JT Lawless, 1991. First Berkman, now Beltran. Should we call up Bagwell? Killer Bees. There is a bit of a Houston flavor. Not so much Houston flavor left with the Astros as they're currently comprised.
I might be able to throw better than Bagwell right now. And that is really, because remember, he just couldn't throw at all. And I can't either, but I think I'm maybe a little better. So I'll call him up.
You leaving Biggio out of there? Why are you doing that? You got something against him?
Well, because he's still an athlete.
Okay, so you wouldn't mess with him.
Oh, I'd mess with him, but I just...
See, there goes. It was congenial, Al.
But I'm just trying, in a throwing contest, he'd win by far.
All right, Jake Westbrook, outstanding tonight. 7 innings for the win. Scoreless innings at that. We'll break down his night when we come back. Cardinals win tonight.
Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live is brought to you by Carrier. For all your heating and cooling needs, turn to the experts at CarrierComfortTeam.com. And by the Missouri Lottery. When you play, students win.
115 pitches for Jake Westbrook, 72 strikes. He is our heel attack king of the hill and in total command tonight, Al.
Well, just watch how the ball is down. Look at the movement. It has a downward movement or sliding in, jamming hitters. He was just really vintage. And what you really like is the 7 innings. When you go 7 innings as a starter, everything falls in place for that bullpen, just getting 6 outs. And he's been good at that, going the distance.
Jake Westbrook has gone at least 6 1/3 in all of his starts this season. And we'll put this in perspective. The most games, 6 1/3 to start a season since 1975. You see Martinez with 9. Waino did in 08 with 7. Ken Hill. And then you see Westbrook and Jose De Leon. So how did Jake Westbrook go about doing it tonight? You could talk about his pitch repertoire. From what I saw, it looked to me like Westbrook was just keeping guys off balance.
Oh, Jimmy, you should be a pitching coach.
You should.
No,
I mean,
trust me. I mean,
if you had a personality for it, which you don't.
Which I don't. But and I really don't think I'm qualified. But what I saw from Westbrook is, we know he's a ground ball specialist, and when he is on, he leads the league in ground ball. Ever since he's been a Cardinal, it's about 74% of the time he'll throw a ground ball. And you throw ground balls, you're going to have your defense turn outs. And that's really what he's doing out there. So, his last time out, he got the ball up. It was really the worst start he's had this season. And you could see he worked on it, he corrected it. And tonight, this was as good as he's pitched all season, and he's pitched very well all season long. He had the ground balls working. He also had 8 strikeouts. He has so much movement, he's going to have a couple walks, and he only had 2.
Big win for the Cardinals. I know a lot of Cardinal fans are curious about Yadier Molina, what his status is. We have sound coming in from Mike Matheny. The whole thing is coming up, but here's a little snippet.
Went over and saw the doctor, and they had some initial x-rays that came back, and they're still going to study him some more, but it looked like it might be pretty clean. I mean, it looks like he's going to be really tender for a while. Hit him in a spot where he's actually had a broken bone before, which kind of complicates the evaluation. But he's in there pacing around saying he's fine, but he's going to be sore, and we'll probably have to get a couple more looks at it. So we'll just kind of wait and see what their doctor, after he had a little more time with the X-rays, see what he says. But so far, it looked pretty good.
So far, so good. Mike Matheny calling the injury to Yadi pretty clean. I like that it's going to be sore. Sore is fine. Broken, fractured, not so good.
Yeah, and I think with the game tomorrow, the off day, look for Yadi to be back in the lineup on Friday, but probably a good day to rest him too.
You talk about what the Cardinals would be without Yadi. I mean, you talk about the importance of this ball club. As we see the injury again, got crossed up in the ninth inning. Again, Mike Matheny saying for now it looks like it's sore. Nothing serious. They're going to keep an eye on it, but Yadi's importance to this ball club.
Yeah, Dan and Ricky touched on it, and I totally concur that if there's one player, and I'll even go last year when you had Pujols, that you cannot replace, and I'm talking about if you were talking about a month or so, extended period of time, it's Yadier Molina. Not to discount Cruz or Brian Anderson or anybody you have in the minor leagues, but Yadi is that good. He is the best of the best Gold Glovers. He's really become an offensive force, and you just can't replace him. So let's hope he's a quick healer.
Cardinals win it 6-1 in Arizona. When we come back, we'll have more Cardinal player reaction from this one. Also, we'll hear from Yadi himself. All that straight ahead. History in Baltimore tonight for Josh Hamilton. He becomes the 16th player in Major League history to hit 4 home runs. What a night. Also had a double, the 18 total bases, and American League record. But Josh Hamilton had one of those nights. We thought Beltran had a big one. How about Josh Hamilton, Al?
Well, outstanding. And I remember when Mark Whitten, when he did it for the Cardinals.
Well, let's flash back and we'll check this out. 1993, September 7th to be exact. Hard hitting. Mark Whitten does just that, 4 homers.
He actually had 12 RBIs in this game. It was the second game of a doubleheader, and when he hit his 4th home run, there was probably about 100 people in the stands. It was 1 a.m. in the morning. But in many ways, I kind of think that after what he did, all the attention that he deserved, and this was in Cincinnati, and those are the Reds fans that are kind of bowing to him, that he really tried to duplicate that night and really got off track. And it was a memorable night. His teammates gave him a towel runway to his locker, the beer shower, and it was a lot of fun, but it was late into the night and very few people got to see it.
He was hard hitting, but never a 4 home run hitting Mark Whitten again.
Not after that.
But still, if you're going to hang your hat on a night, that's the kind of night you want to do.
4 home runs, 12 RBIs is a night to remember.
Pretty good night for Carlos Beltran and the Cardinals. Beltran, 6 RBIs, had the grand slam, also had a 2-run homer as well. Plus, Yadier Molina, will have sound from him coming up. Not sure exactly how Yadi's feeling right now, but we're about to find out.